Imagine New York hospitals overflowing with COVID-19 patients in March 2020. A nurse reuses the same N95 mask for days, watching patients overwhelm the ICU. Reports suggested a dismissive attitude from the Trump White House as New York pleaded for critical medical supplies. Jared Kushner, leading the pandemic response, reportedly downplayed the state's desperation. Cuomo didn't push hard enough to secure PPE for his state. His people are going to suffer, and that's their problem, Kushner reportedly remarked, according to Vanity Fair. For thousands of dying New Yorkers, this wasn't just indifference, it was betrayal. What happens when a leader turns the tools of democracy into weapons of extortion? For Ukraine, it meant humiliation on the global stage. For America, it means we're all Ukrainians now. In July 2019, then-President Donald Trump made an extraordinary demand during a phone call with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, announced politically motivated investigations into Joe Biden and his son Hunter, or lose $391 million in critical military aid. Ukraine, already locked in a fight for survival against Russian aggression, faced the unthinkable, bartering its sovereignty for political compliance. Trump's infamous line, "I would like you to do us a favor," though, revealed his governing ethos: extortion as a tool for personal gain. Although impeached by the House of Representatives on December 18, 2019, Trump was acquitted by Senate Republicans on February 5, 2020. During the impeachment, then Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, a Republican, openly acknowledged his lack of impartiality while speaking with Sean Hannity on Fox News. "Everything I do during this, I'm coordinating with the White House counsel. There will be no difference between the president's position and our position as to how to handle this." Months after Trump's acquittal, the COVID-19 pandemic brought his tactics of conditional governance to U.S. soil. As the virus claimed thousands of lives, Democratic-led states like New York and California struggled to secure federal support. Governors like Andrew Cuomo publicly pleaded for ventilators and personal protective equipment, only to face indifference. Reports also suggested Trump-connected operatives expropriated PPE from state stockpiles, forcing some states to secretly import supplies. For frontline workers, this was no longer just a pandemic, it was abandonment. California, contributing 14 to 15% of all federal tax revenues and housing the fifth largest economy in the world, has faced its own battles with conditional governance. Devastating wildfires fueled by climate change have destroyed homes and displaced thousands. Yet instead of providing unconditional federal support, some Republican leaders have attacked California as undeserving of aid. In a recent interview, Representative Claudia Tenney stated, "There should be conditions on federal disaster relief to the Marxist regime in California." She added, "California is a disaster. Those same people weren't concerned about the people in North Carolina or the people in Florida who we've tried to help." This rhetoric reflects a broader pattern of treating California not as a fellow state in need, but as an adversary. The state's progressive policies, economic prominence, and frequent disasters have made it a favorite target for partisan attacks. Statements like Tenney's underscore the normalization of extortionist tactics in federal governance aid is not a right but a conditional favor, subject to the state's political alignment. Meanwhile, leaders like Texas Governor Greg Abbott deflect from their own failures by scapegoating California. In 2021, millions of Texans endured freezing temperatures without power due to mismanagement of the state's energy grid. Allegations of corruption and ties between Abbott and the energy sector persist. Yet Abbott continues to criticize California, a state whose tax contributions effectively subsidize much of the nation, including Texas. These actions aren't new. From Nixon's abuse of executive power during Watergate to the weaponization of federal funding to punish civil rights activists in the Jim Crow era, history has shown the dangers of leaders prioritizing loyalty over justice. Trump's tactics mirror those of authoritarian regimes. In Vladimir Putin's Russia, energy resources are weaponized to punish dissent and coerce compliance. Viktor Orbán's Hungary uses state funds to reward allies and marginalize opponents. Under Trump, these strategies have been adapted to an American context, turning disaster relief and federal funding into tools for political loyalty. When governance becomes conditional, democracy falters. The federal government's duty to serve all citizens equally, regardless of political affiliation, is not just an ideal, it is the foundation of the United States. Eroding this principle fractures the Union and sets a dangerous precedent for the future. The implications are profound. If disaster relief, federal funding, or life-saving resources can be withheld based on political allegiance, what remains of the promise of equal governance? Imagine a Californian family, their home destroyed by wildfire, being told federal aid will only come if their state complies with partisan demands. This isn't hypothetical. It's the logical trajectory of Trump's playbook, where loyalty outweighs justice and aid becomes a weapon. When we say, we're all Ukrainians now, we acknowledge that the coercion and humiliation faced by Ukraine on the global stage have been mirrored within U.S. borders. Just as Ukraine was asked to trade its dignity for survival, so too are states like California and New York being subjected to conditional governance. This isn't just about red states versus blue states, it's about the erosion of fairness, unity, and democracy itself. Stopping the normalization of extortion is not about partisan politics. It is about protecting the future of the nation. Trump's playbook, borrowed from authoritarian regimes, threatens to unravel the principles that bind the United States together. Americans must act now to demand accountability, reject conditional governance, and safeguard the integrity of democracy. Because when aid becomes a weapon and loyalty outweighs justice, the United States ceases to be united. We are all Ukrainians now. The time to act is now. Please subscribe to the Intellectualist's new YouTube channel, where we present insightful videos analyzing the current events shaping the world. Turn on notifications to receive the latest updates from the channel.